Hi everyone, here is David, and today I would like to speak to you about a book that I recently read, which is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Just yesterday I recorded a video in which I speak about some of my takeaways and personal thoughts about what is discussed in the book. So in the following clip you will be able to listen to it, and I hope you find it meaningful. Here we go. It's a very heavy material which touches on a lot of traumas, a lot of very heavy experiences that people experienced in the Nazi camps during the Holocaust. But also it speaks about the psychology of humans and about some of the mechanisms that help people survive. I'm not going to be able to share with you all the details you may find in the book, but I would like to share with you some of the ideas and some of the key elements that I took away from reading it. One of the most important ideas that I understood is that hope and meaning are actually a powerful fuel for us to survive difficult moments. What Mr. Frankl says in his book is that people who had hope, who had meaning, who had a reason to live, were much more likely to survive all the atrocities that they encountered in the camps. And the reason for that is that people need meaning, and finding meaning in life is very difficult. And what it ultimately touches on is the idea of transcendence, which means living for the sake of something that is bigger than ourselves. And according to Mr. Frankl, there are three primary ways of achieving transcendence. The first one is building something that is beyond us, building and creating something that can benefit other people, benefit the society, be creative and achieve a task, which can be anything, any goal that we set to ourselves that ultimately is going to be more important than our own existence. Number two is love. In particular, unconditional love. Very often we say that the love we have for our children is the highest form of love because it's unconditional. In other words, it's love that is preconditioned only by the fact that they exist and they are who they are. In other words, I love you because you are you. And that's exactly what parents do, right? We love our children not because they have certain qualities, but because they are our children. And that's something that is quite difficult to achieve. And in human interactions, we usually love people. We say we love people because of certain qualities. For instance, we say, I love you because you make me feel in a certain way. But at the same time, if I love you because you act in a certain way, it means that I love you because of something. My love is not unconditional. And therefore, if you take away these qualities, I may no longer love you. I believe it's still possible to love your partner because of who they are, not because of other qualities. At the beginning of relationships, we love people because they are in a certain way, because they show emotions, because they care for us, and they have certain virtues. And in the second stage of the relationship, we may start loving them because they are who they are. Let's say, I love you because you are the mother of my children, and nothing is going to change it. You may become the worst person in the world. You may be someone completely different I thought you were, but because you are the mother of my children, you are who you are. I'm going to love you regardless of what happens in the future. I may also say I hate you because of who you became, but I still love you because of who you are. And I think some people may experience it with their parents. For example, if one of your parents used to be abusive when you were a child, you may hate this person, but at the same time you may still have feelings for that person. That's my personal reflection. I think we may have these type of love and hate relationships with people who are very close to us, and we have a deep relationships with. And the third primary element to achieving transcendence, according to Mr. Frankl, is accepting pain and suffering, finding meaning in pain and suffering. In other words, the pain and suffering we are experiencing is unavoidable. And we have to find a way to accept it. We have to find a way to make sense out of it. And one of the examples, to illustrate this situation, I would like to bring one of the examples you find in the book. There was a medical doctor that came for a consultation to Dr. Frankl, and he was deeply depressed because his wife had passed away 2 years prior, and since then he was very depressed and he couldn't handle it. And the psychiatrist obviously couldn't help it. He couldn't take away this pain, and he could not alleviate the situation. But what he could do is change the perspective. So he asked the doctor, "Doctor, you have outlived your wife. But tell me, please, what would have happened if you had died before your wife? How would she feel?" So the doctor responded, she would have suffered terribly. She would be suffering for years. She would be depressed. She wouldn't be able to handle it. So Mr. Frankl asked him, "So isn't it actually the case that you have saved your wife from all this suffering? Because of you living longer than her, you allowed her, you protected her from this pain. In other words, your suffering has a meaning. You saved her from this situation, and now you are paying a price for it. The pain is not going to go away, but the pain is not meaningless." And at that moment, the doctor shook his hand, he stood up, and he left. Because his pain and suffering is not going to be taken away, but the reason behind the suffering has been added to the equation. These are the three main thoughts, the three primary elements to achieving transcendence, according to Mr. Frankl, and I've been thinking about it for a very long time. And what I also realize is that we live our traumatic experiences. A lot of us have lived through a lot of pain, suffering. But at the same time, when we look at ourselves, we may realize that because of this suffering, we became who we are. In other words, because of the suffering and pain that we lived through, we are who we are. And the strength within us would have never been there if not the suffering itself. Which is paradoxical, but very true. I'm happy to be able to share these thoughts with you on this important topic. I wish you all the best, and I really hope you can find meaning in your life regardless of the circumstances. Good luck.